And so Baldur's Gate was, I was really excited to play it, and my experience was not, I was not as engaged as I was with Dark Sun. However, Baldur's Gate was still pretty good. Like I said, when you start off in Baldur's Gate, it's so much different than Dark Sun. In Dark Sun you've got a party of 4. The storylines are not so personal, so the characters don't have any sort of personality or history, and that's not really relevant. Their personalities and characters and individuality are not super relevant to the overall story of the game. The game really isn't about the egos or the psyche of any individual player in Dark Sun. You're more focused on rallying the villages together. So in Dark Sun, it's a story about how the people at the bottom unite and overthrow the state. So it's almost like a mythology of anarchy, that sort of the state versus the people, or the state versus the heroes. And in Dark Sun, you really feel like there's a sense of anarchy, and there's a sense of anarchy winning over the state. And that's what made it so amazing to me, and as I get older, I only appreciate it more. Baldur's Gate, the storyline, and one of the things that made it different was with Baldur's Gate, there is more personal history. The character that you start off with, no matter who you choose in the character generation process, when it's all said and done, you still have this personal, individual storyline, and it's kind of about being an orphan and trying to trace the origins of your real father. And so it is personal. It is really personal. If you put the effort in to understand what the storyline is, it's this sort of bloodline story and finding out who your real parent is story. And of course, I'm pretty sure Baldur's Gate, you are the son of you share some sort of bloodline with the villain at the end of the game. So it's like a Star Wars thing where Luke Skywalker finds out that Darth Vader is his father, that type of thing. So, and even in Baldur's Gate 2, there was this kind of Star Wars-esque theme. I can't quite remember why I had that thought, but anyways, it's just, I find it interesting how Dark Sun, there was no individual story for the characters, yet you still felt engaged emotionally and personally about what was happening, because it was such a great story of the villages all coming together to overthrow the state. And any sort of story about your individual person in that game would have been about the deeds that you did to get there. So I was attached to my characters when I played Dark Sun. I had like a half-elf and an elf, and I had the most anime-style characters I could get. And that's one of the criticisms of Dark Sun, that was that the pixel art, it was too cute. The sprites and the characters on the screen were kind of cutesy, and I like that. I thought it's almost like Dungeons and Dragons and anime kind of come together. Now, when you look at the avatars, when you look at the actual character generation screens, and you look at the portraits, it's very Americanized Dungeons and Dragons art, especially because it's Dark Sun. It's gladiators and muscular artwork, kind of masculinized, not anime at all. However, when you play the game, as I said, the sprites and the characters on the screen look kind of cute, and I had no problem with that. I thought that was good. So, another thing about, like, when you're talking about what makes a game really engaging is the gameplay, and how in Dark Sun the gameplay was so rich in the sense that it was almost like you were not just playing an RPG. It wasn't just an adventure. It was also kind of a sandbox game. So this was a PC game from the 1990s, and it was one of the first times where I felt like I was playing a sandbox game where you could interact with the environment in ways that had nothing to do with combat, had nothing to do with using your sword or your weapons or your offensive power. It was more just about investigating the items and the features of the environment, and interacting with them in all sorts of ways. And the reason why it was so easy to do that with Dark Sun was because the mouse, you have the right button and the left button, so you could press your right button on your mouse to change the cursor from either a sword to attack or an eye to investigate whatever you click on and place the cursor over. And if you right click again, it was a, what was it? Oh, if you click on an item, the cursor itself becomes the item, so you can hover the item over and place it wherever you want on the environment. So a lot of the objects that you come across, you can pick them up and move them and place them onto other objects. And you didn't have any of that in Baldur's Gate. You know, you didn't have your right mouse button, didn't even do anything, I don't think. You couldn't toggle the cursor, and that was a loss. That was a step backwards. So while Baldur's Gate had more polish in terms of the graphics, the gameplay and the use that they made of the cursor and the mouse was not as innovative. It was almost like a retreat, or something was lost, something was not understood. That's the thing about developing a video game on hardware that the developers have a deep understanding of. When you can get your software programmed so that it works really well with your hardware, you can create gameplay that is highly innovative in terms of how engaged you are with what's going on in the game. It's not just combat.